All right, let's jump right in. I want to take you on a bit of a detective mission today. We're going to look at 6 books that, on the surface, seem totally separate, but they're all hugely influential. And what we're going to do is find this hidden thread, this secret pattern that connects every single one of them, a pattern that, honestly, tells us something really profound about the world we're living in right now.
So here's our lineup. You've got books from Willis Harman, Paul Ray and Sherry Anderson, David Corton, John Perkins, and a couple from Thomas Greco. Now, if you look at them, they seem to be all over the map, right? They're talking about consciousness, corporate power, geopolitics, money. But the big question, the one that's going to drive this whole thing, is this. What's the one powerful idea that actually links all of them together?
And right away, here's our first big clue. It turns out every single one of these authors, they're all diagnosing the exact same problem. They're just looking at it from a different angle. They're all pointing their fingers at our economic, political, and cultural systems and saying, hey, we are in the middle of a really deep systemic crisis here, and it's going to take a fundamental shift to get out of it.
So to really get what they're all talking about, we have to wrap our heads around this one term, paradigm shift. And look, we are not talking about little tweaks or minor reforms here. We're talking about a complete rewrite of the underlying story of our entire civilization. Our basic assumptions about what's real, how society works, our place in the world, the whole shebang. So let's treat this like a detective story. We're going to peel back the layers of this crisis in 3 parts. Okay, part 1. Let's start with the most obvious layer of the problem. This is the stuff you can actually see and feel every day. We're talking about the massive machinery of corporate and geopolitical power that really shapes our world.
This quote just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's inspired by John Perkins' work, and it peels back the curtain on this dark underbelly of how international relations often work. The story we are told is all about free markets and helping other countries. But what's really going on, according to Perkins, is economic coercion. It's about using debt as a weapon to capture a country's resources and control its destiny.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because you see 2 sides of the same coin. You've got David Corton, who basically maps out the official system, the one we see, corporate globalization, the WTO, all that neoliberal ideology. That's the public face. But then you have John Perkins, and he pulls back the curtain on the covert system, the shadow operations, the empire building that uses debt and manipulation to actually enforce that official system. So you could say Corton shows us the building, and Perkins shows us the security guards with the batons.
Okay, so that's the structure of power. But you've got to ask, right? What kind of thinking, what kind of worldview lets a system like this even exist? Not just exist, but be seen as normal. To answer that, we've got to go deeper than just politics. We have to look at our most basic assumptions about how the world works. And here's the key idea. This whole crisis, it isn't just because of bad policies or a few greedy people. It goes way deeper. It's actually rooted in a fundamental worldview. A worldview that sees the world as just a big machine, that sees nature as a pile of resources for us to exploit, and sees all of us as just separate, competing individuals. That power structure we were just talking about, it's a direct symptom of that way of thinking. And this is where our next 2 books fit in perfectly. First, you have Willis Harman. In his book, he basically identified this shift as a theory. He argued that we're moving away from that old machine-like worldview and towards something new, something more holistic and interconnected. It was a powerful idea. But then, Ray and Anderson came along and they delivered the knockout punch. They did the research and actually found the people. Millions of them, who they called cultural creatives, who were already living by this new worldview. Suddenly, it wasn't just a cool theory. It was a real, measurable demographic fact.
All right, let's recap. We've got this broken power structure that's plain to see. And on the other hand, we have this new consciousness, this new way of seeing the world that's bubbling up. But what's the connection? What's the hidden engine that keeps the old system running on fumes and stops the new one from really taking off? Well, get ready, because this is the big reveal. This is the question, the one that unlocks the whole puzzle. Think about it like this. If the worldview is the software, the programs we run in our heads, and the power structure is the hardware, the physical institutions, then what's the operating system? What's that invisible code that's running the whole show in the background?
And the answer is the architecture of money itself. This is where Thomas Greco's work comes in, and it's a game changer. He argues the root of the problem isn't the idea of money, but the specific way our money is designed and created today. The fact that it's basically just interest-bearing debt created by private banks, that is the key. That's the operating system that connects the global empire with that old mechanical worldview. So let's walk through the chain of events here. It makes perfect sense. Step 1. A new worldview starts to bubble up. People start seeing things differently. Step 2. Because of that new perspective, people can finally see the old power structures for what they are, broken and unfair, and they start exposing them. But here's the thing, just pointing out the problem isn't enough, and that brings us to the most critical step, step 3. If you really want to build a new system, you have to rebuild the very foundation it's built on, the monetary architecture. If you don't do that, any other changes are just, well, they're just window dressing. So, what's the big deal with our current money system? I mean, really, what's so wrong with it? Well, Greco lays it out crystal clear. The system is not neutral. It's not just a tool. It is designed to do certain things. It's designed to create artificial scarcity, to force our economy to grow forever like a cancer, and to systematically push wealth to the very top. It's the engine. It's the engine that powers the corporate machine Corton talked about, and it's the engine that powers the debt trap empire Perkins exposed. It's all connected. Okay, I know that was a pretty heavy diagnosis. But here's the good news. The most exciting part of this whole story isn't just about pointing out what's broken. It's about the fact that we actually have blueprints for what we can build instead. So, let's pivot. Let's talk about the solution. So, the big takeaway here is this. Building a better world isn't just about hoping for it, It's not just about protesting the old thing. It's actually an engineering challenge. The old operating system is corrupted. It's full of bugs. So what do? We have to design and install a new one that's built on totally different principles. And listen, these are not some vague pie-in-the-sky ideas. These are concrete design principles for what you could call an honest money system. So production anchoring, that just means money represents real stuff, actual goods and services, not just Wall Street bets. Non-usurious credit? Simple. It means credit is there to help the community thrive, not to trap people in debt and extract wealth. And transparent, rule-bound issuance? That just means everybody knows the rules of how money is made, and those rules are fair for everyone. No secret backroom deals. And the best part? This isn't science fiction. This stuff is actually happening. These alternatives are being built and tested right now, all over the world. You've got things like mutual credit systems, where communities basically create their own money. You have community exchange networks that keep wealth and values circulating right there in the local neighborhood. These are the real practical tools we can use to build that new economic operating system, literally from the ground up. When you boil it all down, it comes back to one core commitment. It's about designing money that is structurally, fundamentally fair. The whole goal is to create a system where money is just an honest map of the real economy, a reflection of what we're actually producing and trading. It shouldn't be a secret tool used to siphon value from the many to the few. And that leaves us with one last, really empowering question. Because once you understand that the design of money isn't some law of nature, like gravity, that it's just a set of rules that humans chose, well, that changes everything. It means all the problems we see, all the flaws, they are not inevitable. They can be changed. So the question we have to ask ourselves isn't what's wrong with the world anymore. The real question is, now that we know we have a choice, what kind of world are we going to choose to build?